Think about your worst crash on a road. Maybe you scraped a knee or broke a wrist. Now imagine doing that, but you're moving at 170 miles per hour, and instead of a soft patch of grass, you're heading straight for a 200-year-old stone wall. That is the reality of the Isle of Man TT. If you aren't familiar with it, this isn't MotoGP. There are no gravel traps. There are no air fences. It's just 37 3/4 miles of public roads, lined with houses, lampposts, hedges, and cliffs. For over 100 years, this place has asked for everything from the people who ride it, and sadly, it usually takes it. More than 260 riders have gone out there and never come home. But today, we aren't talking about the tragedy. We're talking about the anomalies, the handful of riders who looked at an absolute mathematical certainty of death and somehow walked away. These aren't just lucky breaks. These are the moments where physics seem to just pause for a second. Let's get into it. Let's start in 2010. Conor Cummins, local lad, towering guy, they call him the Ramsey Rocket. He was having the race of his life during the senior TT, pushing hard for a podium finish. He gets to a section called the Veranda. Now, the Veranda is a series of ultra-fast, sweeping right-handers up on the mountain. You're completely exposed to the wind up there. Conor is flat out, 150 miles per hour. And then, the rear tire just loses its grip. When you lose a bike at that speed on a normal track, you slide into the gravel. On the mountain road, there is no gravel. There's just the edge of the road, and then a massive drop. Conor and his bike got launched completely off the asphalt, into midair and down a steep, rocky mountain embankment. If you watch the footage, he looks like a ragdoll, just completely at the mercy of gravity, bouncing off rocks for hundreds of feet. The injuries list sounds like a medical textbook. His spine didn't just fracture, it shattered. 5 broken vertebrae, a fractured left arm, knee ligaments completely torn apart, lungs bruised to a pulp. By all accounts of modern medicine, Conor should have been paralyzed on impact, if not killed by the sheer kinetic force. So, why is he still walking today? 2 massive reasons. First, the sheer infrastructure of the TT. The air ambulance helicopter was literally in the air nearby. They landed on that steep hillside within minutes. If they hadn't stabilized his back immediately, those broken bone fragments would have sliced through his internal arteries, and he would have bled out on the mountain. Second, the surgeons did something that feels like science fiction. They spent 11 hours in theater. They took 2 massive 10-inch titanium rods and bolted them directly to his spine, pulling his shattered back into place just millimeters before his spinal cord could sever. Conor actually sat down later to detail this entire nightmare. He talks about what it feels like to have your spine bolted back together and still hold the grit to get back on a bike. Because believe it or not, he came back and stood on the TT podium again. Absolutely insane. Now, that exact same year, 2010, was a brutal year for the TT. The legendary Guy Martin had his own run-in with the laws of probability. It's lap 3 of the senior TT. Guy is on it. He's coming into Balagueri. If you talk to any TT rider, they will tell you Balagueri is a corner you have to respect. It's a blind 6th gear right-hander, and you take it at about 170 miles per hour. They literally call it the Bala, real scary. Guy loses the front end. At 170, the bike doesn't slide down the road. It hits a stone wall dead on. Now remember, this is early in the lap. His fuel tank is completely full, nearly 5 gallons of highly volatile racing fuel. The impact rips the tank wide open, and the whole thing erupts into a massive, apocalyptic fireball. The race had to be stopped immediately because the road was literally melting. You look at that blast, and you think, okay, we're looking at a fatality. There's no way you survive the blunt force and the fire. But Guy walks away. No permanent damage, just a punctured lung and a few cracked ribs. How? Well, a bit of luck, but mostly incredible engineering. His leathers were top tier, fire-retardant racing suits. They insulated him from the initial flash of the explosion. But the real lifesaver was the physics of the crash itself. He wasn't pinned under the machine. The impact threw him completely clear of the bike. He slid down the asphalt for hundreds of yards. Normally, sliding on asphalt sounds terrible, right? But in motorcycle racing, sliding is your friend. Sliding means the friction is slowly bleeding off that deadly kinetic energy. His body armor took the heat and the grinding, saving his skin and bones. He was back in the paddock cracking jokes just weeks later. Our third story takes us to 2018, and this one is tough to talk about because it wasn't a racing mistake. It was a catastrophic human error by the organizers. Earlier in the session, there was a tragic, fatal crash involving another rider. The red flags came out, meaning all racing stops immediately. Now normally, riders are safely guided back. But due to a massive breakdown in communication over the race radios, a group of riders was told to turn around and ride back to the paddock, the wrong way around the course. Imagine you're Steve Mercer. You're riding back, the race is stopped, you think you're safe. You come around a completely blind, high-speed bend at Baker-Holden, and traveling toward you at maximum speed is the official TT safety car. A head-on collision at those speeds is almost always fatal. Steve tried to bail out at the last second, but his handlebars caught his leg, nearly twisting it off. He hit the car's windshield, flew right over the roof, and slammed into a scaffolding structure by the side of the road. His larynx was crushed, his lung punctured, his pelvis, femur, and spine were all broken. He was suffocating on his own injuries right there on the road. The irony of this crash is the only reason Steve is alive. Because he hit the safety car, the vehicle was already packed with the highest-level trauma doctors and medical gear on the island. They didn't have to wait for a helicopter. The doctors were out of the car and securing his airway within seconds. Steve spent 5 months in intensive care. It was a long, painful 7-year road to hit major milestones in his recovery, following grueling rehabilitation and long legal battles to ensure track safety accountability. But that crash changed the Isle of Man TT forever. The organizers completely overhauled their red flag protocols, banned cars from moving on a hot track, and brought in GPS tracking for every single bike. Steve's tragedy guaranteed that no one else would ever face that nightmare again. Finally, let's talk about the sidecars. If you think solo riders are crazy, sidecar racers are on a completely different planet. You have a driver, and you have a passenger who literally hangs off the back of the platform to balance the weight through corners. In 2018, Fiona Baker-Holden was competing as the passenger alongside her dad. They were flying down the course at 130 miles per hour when their outfit clipped another machine. Now, sidecars don't lean into corners. When they crash, the physics are incredibly violent and unpredictable. The impact flipped the outfit, and the momentum literally spat Fiona straight up into the air. 65 feet. That's about the height of a 6-story building. She flew through the air, slammed into a tree branch, and then plummeted back down onto the solid tarmac. Her neck was broken, and she sustained a severe traumatic brain injury. Doctors had to completely remove her destroyed cervical vertebrae and replace it with a custom titanium cage, just to keep her head attached to her spine and prevent permanent paralysis. What kept her alive? Sidecar passengers wear very specific, heavy-duty leathers. Because they are constantly dragging themselves across the platform, their gear has massive, integrated chest and back plates. Those plates acted like a shield, absorbing the impact of the tree branch and the road, keeping her internal organs from being crushed. Against all odds, Fiona didn't just recover, she defied every medical expectation. Hearing her talk about the mental strength required to return to the island paddock is just unbelievable. 264 corners. No margins. No second chances. To most people, looking at these stories, it looks like madness. And honestly, maybe it is. But if you talk to the survivors, they'll tell you the same thing. They don't do it because they want to die. They do it because when you are operating that close to the edge, where a single millimeter means everything, you have never felt more alive. If you want to feel a fraction of what these guys feel, I've linked the onboard footage from Conor's run and the other crashes in the description below. Watch them. Look at how close those stone walls actually are. And let me know in the comments, could you ever look at a corner at 170 miles per hour and stay pinned? Thanks for hanging out today. Catch you in the next one.